This is LSAT PrepTest 151, Section 1, Passage 2. This is about whether the Botai people in Kazakhstan domesticated and rode horses 6,000 years ago. Difficulty is fairly low. It's pretty easy. The content is pretty accessible, but their reasoning here has a twist that catches students sometimes. Now, this is a science passage built around one archaeologist's detective work. Sandra Olson has a theory. The Botai domesticated and rode horses, and she can't prove it directly. And so the whole passage is her eliminating alternatives until her theory is the last one standing. That is the engine driving everything here. One thing to notice up front. This is a single long passage with no paragraph breaks. That means you don't get the usual visual cues telling you when the argument shifts. You've got to hear those shifts yourself, and there are 4 of them. I'm going to walk through each one. Now, the opening few sentences set the stage here. Olson, Kazakhstan, horse bones everywhere, 90% of all bones found. But then you hit the detail that makes the whole passage necessary. Domestic horse bones look identical to wild horse bones. You can't just eyeball them. And that one fact is the reason Olson has to go through all the indirect reasoning that follows. If you miss that, the rest of the passage feels like overkill. Now comes where you gotta slow way down for it, where Olson looks at the sex and age data from the bones, and the logic does a full U-turn. She starts with a known pattern. Herders who raise animals for meat kill young males early and keep the females. That's how goat herding works, and there's archaeological evidence for it. So you would expect a domesticated herd to skew female with lots of juvenile male bones. But at the Botai sites, males are mostly full-grown adults, and they slightly outnumber the females. So your gut reaction should be, okay, these were wild. Hunters went after big males for the meat, makes sense. Olson says no, and here's why. Wild horses don't roam around as individuals. They live in 2 kinds of groups. Family units, led by one stallion with several mares, and small bachelor pods of young males. When hunters attack, families stay together, and the bachelors scatter. And so if you're hunting for efficiency, you hit the family groups. And that means your kill pile should have way more females than males. The Botai bones show the opposite. So what looked like evidence for hunting actually points away from it. You've got to see that reversal happening because the questions will, of course, ask about it. But there is still a problem with the domestication theory. If these were domestic herds, why weren't the younger males culled the way goat herders do it? Now, Olson's answer ties the whole argument together. If the Botai were riding horses, they would need to keep males alive. Riding explains the one piece of the data that doesn't fit the standard domestication pattern. It's clean, one explanation covers the gap. And then the passage shifts to physical evidence. Whole skeletons with full spines, pelvises, and everything were found at the dwelling sites. These are 1,000-pound animals. Nobody is dragging a whole horse carcass home on foot. That only makes sense if they had other horses to help move them, and so the whole skeletons are evidence for domestication and for riding at the same time. Now, the final piece is the burials. Horse skeletons found arranged deliberately alongside human remains. That suggests a bond that goes beyond just killing horses for food. It is the emotional punctuation mark at the end of a logical argument. Now, the key move in this passage is the bone ratio reversal. What looks like evidence for hunting is actually evidence against it because of how wild horse groups behave. Now, every hard question for this passage will trace back to whether you follow that logic. And here's where students go wrong. Olson sounds confident, and the evidence is stacking up, so people walk away thinking she proved her case, but she did not. Look at the hedging language. What may be evidence? Probably domesticated. Perhaps some wild ones. She is building the strongest circumstantial case she can. But the passage never says the question is settled. And so if a choice says Olson established or proved domestication, it's too strong. If one says the evidence is too weak to draw any conclusions, it's too weak. She is in between, leaning toward domestication, presenting the best available case, not closing the book. Before you touch the questions, check yourself on these 3 things. First, why does the high proportion of adult males actually hurt the hunting explanation instead of helping it? Second, what specific problem does the riding hypothesis solve that regular domestication doesn't? And third, what do the whole skeletons at the dwelling sites rule out, and what do they rule in?